Right now, as you're watching this, your dog is probably lying near you doing absolutely nothing, and you think the two of you are on the same page about how the day starts. You wake up, you say good morning, maybe a quick pat, you shuffle to the kitchen, coffee, phone, the day begins. And your dog trots along beside you looking perfectly happy. But here's what almost every owner never realizes. The first 10 minutes after your dog wakes up are the single most important 10 minutes of their entire day, and most of us spend them doing the exact opposite of what our dog's body is screaming for. Not because we're bad owners, because nobody ever told us what's actually happening inside that dog in those first waking moments. So today, I want to hand you a morning routine that costs you nothing, takes about 10 minutes, and I promise you, done consistently, it will change how your dog looks at you. Hi everyone, I'm Leo Bennett, your neighborhood dog guy, and today we're doing a complete masterclass on your dog's morning, 5 things to do in the first 10 minutes after they wake, in the right order, and I'm saving the best for last, because number 5 is the one behavior scientists get most excited about, the one that lowers your dog's heart rate on the spot, and makes them bond to you harder than any treat ever could. Hit subscribe and let's start with the very first thing, before the food, before the cuddles, before anything. The bladder. I know it sounds almost too obvious to mention, but stay with me, because the order here matters more than you'd think. Your dog has been asleep for 6, 8, maybe 10 hours. Their body never stopped working through the night, kidneys filtering, bladder slowly filling, and by the time they open their eyes, that bladder is often the fullest it will be all day. Those emptying reflexes are strongest first thing in the morning after a long rest. And here's the part owners miss. When you meet a dog with a painfully full bladder with big excited energy, hugs, a squeaky good morning voice, wrestling on the bed, you're not just being sweet. You may be triggering what vets call excitement urination, that little puddle that appears the second things get too stimulating, most common in young dogs and puppies who don't yet have full bladder control. So here is the correct way, and it's beautifully simple. The very first event of the day is a calm, quick trip outside to toilet. No big production, no games yet, just out, empty, done. And a real caution here, if your fully house-trained adult dog suddenly starts having morning accidents, or seems desperate and can't hold it the way they used to, that is not a training problem. That can be a urinary tract infection, diabetes, or kidney trouble, and it earns a vet visit, not a scolding. Which brings me to the second thing, and it happens in that exact same window, the greeting itself. Because how you say good morning is quietly teaching your dog something every single day. You probably do it without thinking, the high voice, the fuss, the ruffling of the ears the second their eyes open. And your dog loves you, so they wind up to match your energy, bouncing, spinning, maybe jumping. Here's what I need you to understand. Dogs are masters of reading our patterns. When your morning greeting is a burst of high-pitched excitement, you're training an excited dog. When it's calm and warm, you're training a calm dog. There's a name researchers use for how sensitive dogs are to routine. They're deeply pattern-driven animals, and studies tracking dogs across daylight saving time found they ignore the clock entirely and lock onto their owner's rhythm instead. You are the schedule. So the correct way is not to ignore your dog, please don't. It's to greet them warmly but with a low, steady voice and calm hands, and save the big celebration for after they've settled. And here's an honest confession. I got this wrong with my own dog for years, hyping him up every morning and then wondering why he was a tornado by breakfast. The fix took 2 weeks of boring good mornings, and it worked. The caution, if your dog's morning excitement ever tips into trembling, hiding, or frantic pacing, that's not enthusiasm, that's anxiety, and it's worth a conversation with your vet or a qualified trainer. Now the third thing, and this is where we start working with your dog's biology instead of against it, movement. Your dog has been lying still for hours. Their muscles are stiff, their mind is foggy, and there's a low hum of pent-up energy with nowhere to go. Most of us skip straight past this. We toilet the dog, feed the dog, and leave for work, and we've handed our dog an entire day of stored-up energy and no outlet. Here's why that backfires. That unspent energy doesn't just disappear, it leaks out sideways as barking, chewing, pacing, and the frantic destruction so many owners come home to. The ASCA specifically recommends exercising your dog before you leave them alone, and it's one of the first things behaviorists reach for with separation struggles. Think about what you'd feel like if you woke up and immediately sat still for 8 hours. So the correct way, build in some real movement early. A brisk walk, a game of fetch in the yard, something that gets the body going and burns off that morning charge before the quiet part of the day begins. It doesn't have to be an hour, Even 10 or 15 focused minutes changes everything. And the caution? Match the intensity to your individual dog. A young athletic dog needs far more than a senior with stiff joints. And never push hard exercise on a flat-faced breed in heat or on a dog straight after eating, which brings us neatly to number 4. Let's talk about that food bowl, because the fourth thing is about how your dog eats breakfast. And this is where good intentions quietly cost your dog something precious. You scoop the food, you set the bowl down, and your dog inhales the entire thing in 90 seconds flat. And you think, great, good appetite, job done. But watch what just happened. You handed a hunting animal, a creature whose brain is wired to work for food, to search and sniff and problem solve, the one thing that requires zero brain at all, a full bowl on the floor. That meal was over before their mind ever switched on. And a bored, understimulated dog left alone all day is a recipe for exactly the anxiety and mischief we're trying to prevent. Here's the beautiful part. Mental work tires a dog out as much as physical exercise, and it has the same calming, stress-reducing effect. So the correct way: turn breakfast into a job. Feed it from a puzzle toy, a snuffle mat, a stuffed Kong, or just scatter the kibble across the lawn and let them hunt for it. You've taken the same food and turned a 90-second event into 10 minutes of engaged, satisfying, tiring brain work. And there's a bonus: if you do this right as you leave, your departure starts to predict the best puzzle of the day instead of the scary moment you disappear. The caution: introduce puzzle feeders slowly so your dog doesn't get frustrated, supervise new toys for chewing, and if a dog who normally loves breakfast suddenly goes off their food, don't wait it out. A sudden loss of appetite in a dog is a genuine medical flag. And now, the one I promised you, the thing behavior scientists get genuinely excited about, and it costs you nothing but a little patience. Before you rush that morning walk, let your dog sniff. I mean really sniff, nose to the ground, taking their time, and here's why it matters more than the distance you cover. A dog experiences the world primarily through their nose, and sniffing isn't idle dawdling, it's how they read the news, process their environment, and self-soothe. There's real science here. Studies have found that when dogs are allowed to sniff freely, their pulse rate actually drops, and the more deeply they sniff, the more it lowers. Researchers have shown sniffing activates the calming, rest and digest side of the nervous system and releases dopamine, the feel-good chemical. One study found dogs on a longer leash spent dramatically more time sniffing, up to 2.5 times as much, than dogs kept on a short, tight lead. And dogs given regular scent work came out measurably more optimistic. So the correct way: on that first walk of the day, drop the pace, loosen the leash, and let your dog lead with their nose. Let them stop at the interesting patch of grass and read it for as long as they want. Behaviorists call this a decompression walk or a sniffari, and 10 minutes of it does more for your dog's mental state than a fast march around the block ever will. This is the one your dog has been quietly begging you for at the start of every single walk, and when you finally give it to them, calm, unhurried, on their terms, you're speaking their language in the deepest way you can. The gentle caution: keep them safe on a long line away from traffic, steer them off anything they shouldn't eat, and if the sniffing looks frantic and anxious rather than slow and methodical, that tension is worth reading too. So let's gather it all up into a new morning, 10 minutes, 5 steps, in order. First, a calm, quick trip outside to empty that overnight bladder. Second, a warm but low-key greeting that trains calm instead of chaos. Third, real movement to burn off the stored energy before the quiet day begins. Fourth, breakfast turned into a puzzle so their mind switches on and tires out. And fifth, a slow, sniffy walk on their terms that drops their heart rate and hands them the world. Hunt, move, sniff, settle, in the order their body is built for. One important word before you go: because this routine is for a healthy dog, it's not a substitute for veterinary care. If your dog suddenly can't settle, stops eating, has accidents they never used to have, seems stiff or reluctant to move, or shows a real change from their normal self, please hear me. That's very often the body talking, not the personality, and it deserves a prompt vet visit. Behavior routines never replace a proper exam when something's genuinely wrong. And if you've been getting some of these out of order for years, don't feel 1 ounce of guilt. You were loving your dog the way every one of us was taught to, with excitement and a full bowl and the best of intentions. The fact that you just sat through an entire masterclass about the first 10 minutes of your dog's day tells me your dog picked exactly the right person. So tomorrow morning, go slow, let them empty first, save the fuss, move their body, make them work for breakfast, and then let that nose lead the way, And come back and tell me in the comments which of the 5 your dog responded to first. I read as many as I can. Hit that like button so this reaches more dog owners who want to start the day right. Subscribe for the next deep dive, and take good care of them, and take good care of yourself. I'll see you next time.